Welcome back everyone to the world of Disgaea, and today we're looking at Disgaea 6. Specifically the complete version with all the previous content and DLC bundled in. Unfortunately, I kind of have a reputation of just being the guy that hates Disgaea 6, and while it still is probably my least favorite entry, I said I was doing a guide on every game, damn it. And I can say I have a bit more of an appreciation for it after studying it for this guide. Disgaea 6 is a little bit of an insane one, bringing over many of the fundamentals that Disgaea 5 revamped and introduced, but put in completely new contexts. Mostly thanks to the introduction of auto battle and demonic intelligence, which is what a lot of this game is built around. Oh, and maybe the other most well-known aspect of this game is probably, numbers go brrr! Unlike most normal RPGs, even other Disgaea games, Disgaea 6 forgoes logical progression and skyrockets your stats and levels immediately. You will gain tens to hundreds of levels at a time right off rip, with equally absurd stat growth to match. Usually the final bosses of Disgaea main stories lie around the level 80 to 100 range. The final boss of Disgaea 6, level 5000, just to give you an idea of the rate of growth. So of course an ultimate level cap of only 9,999 is not gonna cut it. Get ready to be staring at a whole lot of commas. As usual, the goal of this guide is to give you all the information you need to get the platinum and clear the endgame content. I'll be outlining all the fundamental mechanics like how all the hub world facilities work, going over content and how to unlock all of it, how to get stronger including how to raise stats, level equipment, and good experience tricks, and finally all the achievements and how to obtain them. Also, as a caveat, this version of the game may not have any paid DLC, but it sure as hell has microtransactions. Specifically, there are tickets you can purchase with real money that multiplies hell, mana, and most importantly, experience. I will not be considering these whatsoever in this guide, because microtransactions are lame and should not be necessary in a just world. Also, why are they in Disgaea a single-player game? 2020's gaming is crazy, man. And trust me, you don't need them. But damn, are these big boosts? Holy shit, all of these stack, by the way. Before getting into the minutiae of facilities, a little overview and refresher of basic gameplay functionality, including what has fundamentally changed from the Disgaea norm. For one, the very fabric holding reality together has been tampered with. The almighty level cap. Historically, the level cap has always been 9,999. What if I told you that the level cap in Disgaea 6 is 9,999? But wait, that's the first level cap. The absolute level cap is 99,999,999. I told you these numbers get big. The ability to raise your level cap, and some other caps, are tied to karma abilities that you unlock by passing bills to open the Carnage and Rakshasa dimensions. That's all post-game stuff, so we will get to that much later. In Disgaea 6, monster units are completely different to how they were before, in that they're not different from humanoids, that is. Historically, monster units have operated very differently than humanoids, using their own weapon types, a different throw system, etc. Now they operate just like humanoids. Gone are monster weapons, they can just equip normal human weapons, swords, guns, you name it. And they can lift and throw just fine, so you can use any unit, monster or humanoid, without worrying about major restrictions. On the subject of monsters, magic change is not present in Disgaea 6. Many things, you will notice, are not present in Disgaea 6. Each class or character has their own set of resistances for every single damage type, which is just a % multiplier on the damage they take from it. This includes every weapon type and every element type, including Star. A positive resistance means they take less damage, a negative means they're weak to it and take more. The max a resistance can be is 99 for a positive number or minus 100 for a negative number, which means they either take 99% less or 100% more damage. Skills work differently in that there are less of them. In Disgaea 6, each class or character has their own unique skills they can learn by leveling up. In the case of generic classes, some skills may be locked to higher tiers of those classes, which I'll go more in depth on when I talk about the Dark Assembly and recruiting characters. And that's about it. There are no weapon skills in Disgaea 6. The only benefits for using specific weapons in this game is to use whatever stats they base damage on, and to take advantage of weapon mastery, which I'll go over soon. There are literally only unique skills, and for simplicity's sake, I'm including normal magic skills in that category as well, like elemental attacks, buffs and debuffs, and healing, even though there are multiple classes that can learn some of those. But the point is, regardless, you level up to learn skills. Each character or class has a set list of skills they can learn this way, and that's it. Even though there aren't weapon skills, there is still weapon mastery. Each class or character has a certain proficiency in each weapon type, designated by a letter rank from E to S. The higher the rank, the more weapon mastery experience you earn for that weapon. You earn weapon mastery experience by simply using the weapon. Leveling weapon mastery gives you more of a stat boost from equipping that weapon type on top of the normal base stats it has. The boosts aren't linear, they gradually decrease as the level gets higher, but by max level 100, you'll be getting a plus 200% stat boost from the weapon, which is 3 times the stats. Normally I talk about aptitudes at the same time, but there are actually no aptitudes in Disgaea 6. Also, there's Armor Mastery, which works the same way, but you earn experience for it by getting hit. Hilariously, Armor Mastery is actually bugged. The Disgaea wiki says it gives the same as an E rank no matter the actual listed rank, but when I was testing it for myself, it was actually giving me less than even E ranks were getting. So don't hold your breath on Armor Mastery. Actually do, it's trivial anyway with the juice bar, as you'll see soon. Now, a huge thing this game changed is the way experience is allocated, and it's important to understand this so you can abuse the hell out of it. Disgaea 6 essentially has XP share, but not in the way that divides the total experience. See, all the experience earned in battle is determined by the killing characters. So if a unit has experience increasing Evilities or Innocence on them, for example, that's good. The experience they earn will be affected, except that experience isn't applied immediately. It all pools up during the battle. At the end of the battle, all the experience you have pooled will be given to every individual character that fought on the map. The only exception is if you put someone back in the base panel, but if they died, then they still get experience. Which means those experience increasing Evilities don't just benefit the killing unit, but the entire party. That's pretty huge. As a tip right off the bat, this makes the Hog All experience bill in the Dark Assembly more broken than it's ever been, since this means it can give the hogging unit about 10 times more experience if you have 10 units on the results screen at the end of a map. I'll go over how to abuse this even more when I talk about general methods and tips and tricks to boosting experience. As a last note about experience, there are also some modifiers certain units will get at the end of the map in the form of medals. Medals are just little rewards given to units if they did something specific. There's one for the unit who dealt the most damage, one for the second unit who died for some reason. All the exact same systems as experience apply to mana too, by the way, even down to the medals. Some medals will boost mana instead of experience. Disgaea 6 still has subclasses and class mastery. Any unit can equip a subclass, which can be selected or changed at any time straight from the stats screen. There's a subclass for every generic class in the game, so Zed can subclass as a Prinny, for example. Even generic classes can subclass. When you kill enemies, you'll gain subclass experience that goes towards mastering whatever subclass you have equipped. Each subclass has 6 stars you can master, with each one requiring substantially more experience than the last. Subclass experience is separate from normal experience, by the way, it's its own thing. Each generic class you can recruit also has 6 different tiers. Mastering a subclass star with anyone unlocks that class tier for recruiting, except rank 1 since that's the default tier. So mastering rank 2 of the Prinny class, for example, will unlock the tier 2 Prinny for recruiting, and so on. Of course, you have to actually unlock the class itself in the first place, which I'll talk about when I get to the recruiting section. Another benefit to mastering subclasses is that each star will grant you a new common Evility that you can purchase from the Evility shop. Each subclass has its own set of common Evilities that become available this way. Mastering the 6th star of a subclass, which means it's fully mastered, gives you access to that class's unique Evility. More on Evilities when I get to the skill shop. The last major benefit of subclasses, which might be the most important one, is that each subclass star you master raises your stat growth on leveling up by a certain amount. So if you fully master every subclass, you'll get a very hefty boost to your stat growth, which you can take full advantage of by reincarnating and leveling back up from scratch. Sorry, it's called super reincarnating in this game. Disgaea 6 makes mastering subclasses easier than ever with the juice bar, which we'll touch on later. A brand new progression system called demerits plays a pretty big role in this one. Demerits are a set list of achievements that each individual unit can hit for various rewards. They're all only one-time gains. They don't reset upon reincarnation or anything. And they're all character specific, so each unit has to achieve and claim them individually. They generally give your unit permanent passive gains. The things demerits generally have you doing spans across the whole game. Everything from mastering different amounts of subclasses, to reaching certain level thresholds, to super reincarnating a certain amount of times, and anything in between. There are some incredibly important rewards here to keep in mind. Mastering the star ranks of any one subclass gives you a permanent stacking experience boost for each star. Mastering the 6th star gets you an extra 130% of experience all on its own. Fully mastering multiple subclasses has its own set of demerits that unlock more common Evility slots. I'll talk more about Evilities and Evility slots later, but that's pretty big. A ton of these also give you flat karma rewards. More on karma when we get to super reincarnation. Point is, demerits are very important for growth. Lastly, Disgaea 6 introduces one more major shakeup to the formula. That is auto battle, and by extension demonic intelligence. See, in any map you can press start to auto battle. This simply takes whatever group you have set to your auto battling group and takes actions for you, from top to bottom in the character list. So if you want one character to be taken into consideration before another, they have to be placed above them on the list. Also, you can hit select to auto repeat. This will automatically restart stages so you don't have to manually go back in. Or if you're in the item world, will automatically go to the next floor, truly automating the process. The actions these characters take in auto battle are based on your demonic intelligence setup. Demonic intelligence is essentially just you manually coding whatever actions you want the game to automatically take for you. It may look super confusing at first, and it allows you to be surprisingly detailed, so let's look at it more closely. Demonic intelligence, or DI, will read your commands from left to right. Commands are sorted into 3 categories: when, to whom, and do what. When lets you designate when the character performs an action, or more specifically, under what conditions. Each one of these is actually a branching path, so you can code what you want your unit to do under that condition, or otherwise if the condition isn't met. This is anything from specific turn numbers to whenever you or an ally are below or above a certain health threshold, if you're able to move within range to use a specific special attack. To whom, as it sounds, lets you specify a target. Enemy forces, ally forces, yourself, a specific panel on the map, units with specific status ailments, specific objects on the map like level spheres or chests. I told you this was detailed. And finally, do what specifies your actual action, just moving, using a specific special skill, lifting, throwing, using specific items, and a ton more. There's also wait until other units have acted, which can be very helpful to time things properly. And you really do have to input every specific action. Just saying hit enemy isn't enough. You have to make sure you've commanded your unit to actually move towards that enemy, make sure they're in range, etc. A lot of the statements here are nice in general to account for any situation, like the nearest or farthest enemy ones. There is a lot of freedom and ways to play around with this, and multiple setups you can use to do similar things, depending on the logic behind it, so it's best you really explore and experiment with it. With all of that out of the way, let's start talking about all those handy-dandy facilities and NPCs you can use in the hub world. I'm going to start with the brand new Juice Bar just because of how fundamental it is. When you clear a map and earn your usual experience and mana, a portion of it will be stored permanently in the Juice Bar. This builds up and remains a reserve that you can distribute to anyone at any time, meaning you can literally just instantly give a unit experience or mana. It costs hell though, so you also have to make sure you have enough money. Stored experience doesn't just have to be used for leveling up characters, you can also level up weapon mastery and even subclass ranks with it. You'll hit a point not too far into Postgame, probably during Carnage Dimension or so, where you'll have more than enough stored experience and hell to burn to instantly master all subclasses and weapon masteries on anyone with 0 effort anytime you want. The Juice Bar is pretty powerful. There's a squad called the Juice Bar Squad that'll give you even more Juice Bar gains the more people you put into it. In addition to experience and mana, you can also earn extracts. There's a unique extract type for each individual stat, including HP and SP. You get these from more specific places, not just automatically, but the same idea applies. You can use extracts to literally just give a unit stats. One extract is +1 in whatever stat that extract is for. Extracts cap at 500 billion in the main 6 stats, which means you can only ever give a unit 500 billion extra for each stat before they're ineffective. Your main source of extracts for most of the game will be from demerits. There are a good amount that give you them, most notably demerits for having stats above a certain value. You can just keep creating characters and power leveling them as an easy way to get these demerits consistently. However, claiming 100% of demerits on a character will give you a special Evility you can't get anywhere else called Infernal Corrosion, which automatically gives you extracts for defeating enemies equal to 1/100,000th of the stats of the enemies, which is important for grinding out those 500 billion in late post-game if you so wish to. To use the Juice Bar, it costs 1 hell per point of experience or mana you use, and 100 hell per extract. Next up is the shop. Here you can buy items and equipment. An important note about items is that hands do not exist in Disgaea 6. This normally lets you steal items, but in this game you can only steal with the Thief class using her unique skill Cat Snatch. Well, and Grand Theft, which lets you attempt to steal from every enemy at once. Since unique skills are the only skills in Disgaea 6, you can't transfer them between units. Before getting into the shop proper, let's talk about items themselves first, because Disgaea has a rather unique way of handling them. As for item types, there are your standard weapon types, armor is its own category, and then various types of other accessories are broken into their own categories, like emblems, belts, shoes, glasses, etc. Then there are consumables that do things like heal HP and SP. Those are the basic things you'll find in the shop at least. However, what the game won't tell you outright is that every single item in the game has a secret rank value. Ranks go from 1 to 40, and they denote how strong the item is compared to other items of its type. But a lot of other things are determined by item rank too, such as as the base level and strength of enemies in its item world, for example. A higher rank means a stronger item, so rank 40 items are the strongest of their type. There are good charts people have made that tell you the specific rank of every item, which I'll link in the description. When it comes to weapons and armor, there's generally one of each rank, 40 sword types, 40 axe types, etc. There are asterisks to this, of course, like special weapons that exist outside of the basic rank line, but either way, some rank is assigned to them. Rank 40s are special because there's only one way to ever get one. You will never find them as normal item drops or equipped on normal enemies or anything like that. Only up to rank 39s are gotten that way. Rank 40s are only gotten by stealing them from an Item God 2 in the item world. Item God 2s always have the next rank up of whatever item type you're inside of equipped. So you get them by encountering one in the respective rank 39 item, or whatever rank is the next lowest. I'll touch more on that when I talk about the item world itself. Then there's the rarity of an item. Rarity goes from 0 to 100. A higher number means a higher rarity. Common items whose nameplates are white have rarity 0 to 24, rare items are green and have rarity 25 to 49, legendary items are yellow and have rarity 50 to 99, and lastly, epic items are blue and are rarity 100. But you can increase an item's rarity in the item world, which I'll explain then. Rarity applies a direct multiplier to the final stats of the item, by a flat plus 1% per rarity value, so an epic 100 rarity item applies a plus 100% boost, doubling the stats of the item. Also, this isn't until later in postgame, but all the items you find at first are far from the strongest version of those items. This game handles the Land of Carnage very similarly to Disgaea 5, in that you eventually unlock more difficult versions of story maps, along with stronger versions of every item to go with them. Except Disgaea 6 has 2 layers of this. The Carnage dimension, which will introduce you to Carnage items, which have a red tint, and the Rakshasa dimension, which will introduce you to Rakshasa items, which have a blue tint. These are all the same items as normal, just way stronger. I'll go more in detail on that in postgame, but thought it was at least worth mentioning here. Last note on items, an absolutely insane change unique to Disgaea 6 is that when you level up items in the item world, that level is permanent across every single type of that item you pick up going forward. In other words, every item you pick up will automatically come at the maximum level you've ever gotten that item to before. Whether it's getting them from the bonus gauge, from chests, or literally just buying them in the shop, you'll be able to see that level in its description. So if you've gone inside a rank 2 fist, for example, the rubber gloves, and leveled it to 100, every single rubber gloves you get from that point on will also be level 100 right off rip. Annoyingly, the one exception to this is items that you steal from enemies. For normal items, they'll all be level 0, but for Carnage and Rakshasa items, whether you're in a story map or the item world, every single item you see equipped on enemies will be at a fixed level depending on which map you're in or the rank of the item you're in for the item world. It's generally based on the difficulty of the map, so higher ranking items will have higher levels of items equipped on enemies in the item world, and same for later story maps as opposed to earlier ones. This level is capped though. Carnage items will only ever come equipped on enemies at level 575, and for Rakshasa items, level 1000. This does also apply to Item God equipment, except for normal difficulty items where the equipped item will be at the same level as the item you're in. Now, when it comes to the shop proper, spending money here will slowly raise your customer rank. Customer ranks make items cheaper and sell for more, the max is 12. More interesting is product rank. Once per chapter, a bill will open in the Dark Assembly called Better Items. Surprise, surprise, this makes stronger items available in the shop. There are 15 chapters in the game, so product rank maxes at 15. At that point, up to rank 32 items will be available at the shop. Next up is the Dark Assembly. Here, you can use mana to pass bills, your standard fare. Each bill has a certain % rate of being voted on in your favor, but even if it's not, you can pay hell to get it passed instead. Some bills will be much more expensive to pay for than others. Another option is fighting the entire room of senators to pass it, specifically just the ones that are opposed to you. Violence is always the answer. Technically, you can also go around and bribe opposing senators with items so they'll be more agreeable when it's time to actually vote, but I usually don't bother. The Dark Assembly is also where you can recruit new characters. Each generic recruitable class has 6 different tiers, unlocked by mastering their subclass stars, with each tier having slightly higher base stats than the last and in some cases having access to more skills. So just always recruit the highest tier you can. When you recruit or reincarnate a unit, you choose a capability type for it with mana. Historically, the idea with this has been that you get a certain amount of points to distribute to your base stats. A higher capability type meant more points. But here, you don't directly get points, you get a brand new currency instead called Karma. You spend Karma to raise your base stats, which means that if you want more, you have to keep reincarnating. Also, just like in Disgaea 5, you can still recruit a unit at higher levels from the jump, not just level 1, assuming you have enough hell for it. The way you unlock new classes to recruit is through quests at the quest shop. For humanoids, there will be quests to master certain amounts of subclass stars for different classes. For monsters, the quests for those open up throughout the story, and they'll generally be item fetch quests. There are only 22 recruitable classes in the entire game, 13 humanoids and 9 monsters, the lowest of any game. The Dark Assembly also lets you reincarnate. Super reincarnate, excuse me. Reincarnating sets a character all the way back at level 1, but gives you some karma to use to raise your base stats. These stat raises are fixed and permanent. They don't fluctuate based on stored levels or anything that may have been a factor in past entries. This base stat modifier is called Capability, not to be confused with the capability type you select, which just determines how much karma you get to spend on capability. Get it, got it, good. At first, capability for each stat is capped at 255, but when you reincarnate, you also have the option to spend your karma in another way, to buy permanent passive abilities. These karma abilities are vital to your growth. They are how you purchase level cap increases, capability cap increases, permanent extra damage dealt, extra supporting stats like movement for the unit, and on and on. Karma is character specific, so each unit holds its own supply. Reincarnating is your main source of karma, as well as a lot of demerits. The demerits for using the juice bar a specific number of times, which you can just spam 1 mana point or something at a time to do, give you a ton, with 255 times giving you 10 million karma. Be careful though, a character can only hold so much karma at a time, so any more than that will go to waste. This too can be increased. At first, the holding limit is 9,999, but some demerits for hitting level thresholds increase this. Getting a unit to the absolute max level of 99 million lets them claim a demerit that increases the holding cap to 999 billion karma, which is way more than you could ever realistically even get. Even 1 billion is still more than necessary, and you can get that at just level 1 million. Oh, and last thing about Super Reincarnation, you also get a random Evility every time you Super Reincarnate, which is the only way to get those Evilities. Now we move to the Skills Shop. Skills can be enhanced here with mana to make them stronger. For magic or support attacks, you also have the option to increase their area of effect up to a 3x3 grid. The max level a skill can be is 9,999. When you use a skill, you gain skill experience for that skill, which goes towards raising its proficiency. Proficiency is separate from enhancing. Proficiency just makes skills cost less SP to use, and the max is 99. This is good because enhancing skills skyrockets their SP cost, so you can also raise proficiency to cushion that blow. But in addition to getting experience for it, you can also just increase that too with mana at the shop. If you go too far with it with a skill cost too much SP to use, you can always reverse enhancements to weaken the skill and get its SP cost back down. You don't get your mana back for doing this, but it costs 0 mana to enhance it again. It only costs mana to get it to a level it's never been at before. The Skills Shop is also where you manage Evilities. Evilities are a huge part of strategizing in Disgaea 6. There are an incredible amount of Evilities to play around with, so I'm going to go over what they are, all the different ways you can get them, and how to get more Evility slots. Evilities are just passive effects you can equip on units. That's literally it, but they are the bread and butter to diversifying unit and team builds. There are Evilities for just about anything and everything. There are 2 kinds of Evilities, unique Evilities and common Evilities. Each type uses their own slots on a character, which determines how many you can have on at a time. Unique Evilities all only cost 1 unique Evility slot. Every single class or character has their own unique Evility by default, highlighted in yellow. This can never be taken off the unit, so it's basically just a way for each class to have their own passive ability that makes them stand out. For example, the Magic Knight has Elemental Force, whose description is kind of terrible, but it boosts elemental attacks by the percentage of the unit's resistance to that element. So a 25 fire resistance will make fire attacks 25% stronger. However, with your extra unique Evility slots, you can put on other classes' unique Evilities. First, you can unlock a class's unique Evility by fully mastering their subclass. You don't have to buy them from the shop, they'll automatically be available on the unit. However, you won't have any way of viewing these or applying them until you have empty unique Evility slots to put them in. Any unit can unlock 2 extra unique Evility slots, one by passing a build that becomes available after beating the main story called Equip a Unique Evility for 100,000 mana. The second one takes significantly more legwork. You have to earn and claim every single demerit for the unit. Due to needing to master subclasses to unlock unique Evilities, you can only use other generic classes' uniques, not those of a one-of-a-kind character like Zed, since they can't be subclassed. Common Evilities have a lot more to them. For one, they don't just cost 1 common slot each. Their cost greatly varies depending on the ability, but you have a lot more common slots to work with. Common Evilities can come from a bunch of different places, so I'll try to break all of them down. For one, some common Evilities can just be bought from the shop right away for any unit. Many, however, only appear in the shop under certain circumstances. Evilities are character specific, so only characters that have met those requirements will be able to purchase them from the shop. For example, many common Evilities fall into a class. There are Demon, Demon Lord, Overlord, and Super Overlord class Evilities, above the ones that are already in the shop by default. Claiming the demerits for certain level thresholds unlocks higher classes of Evilities to be bought from the shop. Level 350 unlocks Demon class Evilities, 1000 for Demon Lord class, 5000 for Overlord class, and level 9999 for Super Overlord class. Then there are Evilities that only appear in the shop by mastering subclass stars. Each star of each subclass has its own Evility that will become available here once you master it. For example, you can buy a Secret Recon by mastering rank 5 of the Ninja subclass. Loosely related, each unique character also has their own set of Evilities that only they can buy from the shop. So for example, only Valvatorez has access to the Evility Printy Instructor. You can transfer Evilities really easily, so this is just for initially purchasing it. Also, there's an entire group of Evilities that are only gotten by super reincarnating. You get a random one every time you do. There's a squad called the Ability Squad that lets members learn more super reincarnation abilities at once, up to a total of 5 when the squad is fully leveled up. And lastly, there's Infernal Corrosion again. So the full reward for claiming every demerit on a unit is 1 extra unique Evility slot and the special Infernal Corrosion common Evility. Any character can have 22 common Evility slots, and all the extra ones can be gained by claiming demerits for mastering subclasses. The last slot is rewarded by fully mastering every single subclass. Transferring Evilities is easier to do than ever in Disgaea 6. You don't have to worry about fulfilling dumb requirements multiple times, like playing the Super Reincarnation RNG game or anything like that, because any common Evility can immediately be turned into a scroll in the skill shop for mana, like instantly, including Infernal Corrosion. It doesn't take it away from the original unit or anything like that. You can just spam Evility scrolls as soon as you get it once to give it to anyone else you want too, assuming you have enough mana for it. You can also get rid of Evilities by converting them into mana. One of the most important functions in any Disgaea game is the item world, and let me tell you, it is a whole lot different in this game compared to any other that came before. The item world lets you go into an item and clear randomly generated floors to level it up, raising its stats. Just like Disgaea 5, the item world in this game is endless, so you don't have to worry about getting locked out of anything. Fun fact though, even though you can keep climbing indefinitely, your floor number actually stops counting at 9999. When you go into an item, it'll tell you what floor you're on before you go in. This number will never be above 9999, which means the next floor will always be considered 10,000 if you ever manage to climb an item that high. 10,000 is a multiple of 100, just keep that one in mind. The max level an item can be is, get ready for it, 9,999. You can clear a floor, therefore gaining a level, by defeating all the enemies, or just by going into the skip portal that's on each floor. Going through the skip portal will still get you a level, unlike Disgaea 5, which was very mean. Occasionally, you'll find level spheres on the map, and destroying them will give you some extra levels to the item. Green spheres give you +1 level, yellow gives +3, and red gives you 5 extra levels. Those methods are your only ways of gaining item levels. So if you want to get to max level, let's just say you're going to be doing a lot of auto-battling on a lot of floors. Luckily, Demonic Intelligence lets you target item world specific things like level spheres and even the skip gate. You'll also commonly see extra yellow gates. These gates take you to a random mystery room. There are a bunch of mystery rooms you can get with various effects. They're not nearly as important to Disgaea 6 as in most other games, but they're there. Some will sell you special items, some will just want to fight you, there's one special one that will give you a random unique innocent for the item, etc. Sadly, there is no duplication room like in Disgaea 5, or any way to duplicate items. And I mean this in terms of an exact copy, you can still get the same type of item that you're in from the item god. Also, there's a very useful type of item that's common in item world bonus gauges called divers. These just let you skip a certain amount of floors, most commonly 5. It even counts as clearing the floor, so you'll gain a level by using one, which is fantastic for leveling items that are difficult for you to actually fight in. And also, you can get to higher floors a lot faster, of course. You might want to do that if you just want to bum rush it to an item god or something. You can just auto-battle a low-ranking item to easily survive and farm a bunch of these. After every 10th floor, you'll be dumped into an innocent town. Here, you'll be prompted to either keep going or exit the item world. Normally, this is your only way to exit. But if you want to exit any other time, you can use a Mr. Gensi's exit item. You can get these by clearing any 10th floor of the item world, which includes just going into the portal. It'll always be the rank 0 bonus gauge item on those floors. There are a couple NPCs in the innocent town. Here you can heal at the hospital, or use a very special shop that will sell you a random assortment of items. What makes this shop different than the normal one, aside from its random nature, is that these items can be of higher rank, depending on the rank of the item you're in, higher rarity, and come with innocence, whereas the items from the normal shop are always common rarity, are at fixed ranks, and don't have any innocence on them. I'll go over innocence soon. Also, there's an option in the cheat shop to skip Innocent Town so you don't have to worry about manually exiting them while auto-battling. Every 10th floor, you'll come across a boss. The boss will have a few different titles depending on which floor it is. Item God spawn on every 100th floor, Item King spawn on any floor ending in 30, 60, or 90, and Item General spawn on every other 10th floor. Killing Item Kings raises the population of an item, which is how many innocents you can put on it. The population max is at 8. The very special thing about item gods is that they are always carrying the same item you're currently inside of, so you can get more of them. However, the extra special thing is that when the item you're inside of is level 80 or higher, the next item god you reach will instead be an item god 2. And it will have the next rank up equipped instead. Unfortunately, item gods and item god 2s are still affected by the cap on items that can be equipped on enemies, so a Rakshasa rank 40 will never be higher than level 1000, which means you can't farm higher level rank 40s without raising their level manually, unfortunately. Also, the item god 2 only ever shows up once. If you pass it by, you'll only find item gods again afterwards. The item god 2 is the only way to get rank 40 items. There are a bunch of things you can do in the item world to raise an item's stats besides just leveling. For one, there's an item's rarity. Rarity caps out at 100, and you can raise it by killing item bosses. Item generals give you +1 rarity, item kings give +2, and item gods give +3. If you really want to, you can literally Gensi out of a boss floor and keep going back in to kill the boss, and you'll keep getting rarity. A rarity 100 item, which is an epic item, will give the item a +100% boost in its stats, or 2 times. Then there's the kill bonus. The kill bonus raises 1-to-1 with the levels of enemies you defeat. So defeating a level 9999 enemy will raise the kill bonus by 9999. You can see your total kill bonus when you exit an item. Anything you kill counts, whether it's enemies, chests, level spheres, etc. As long as it has a level, it'll contribute. Kill bonus caps at a whopping 1 trillion. The stat boost you get from kill bonuses drastically decreases as it gets higher, so it's really not worth farming very much outside of whatever amount you get naturally by just doing whatever else you're doing in the item world. Last, but certainly not least, there's training bonus. This doesn't have a cumulative value, but you can see the amount of training bonus you've earned during your item world run when you exit the item. Raising training bonuses simply means raising the item's base stats. This is particularly strong because every single other multiplier, from levels, rarity, kill bonus, etc., is applied to the item's base stats. So if those base stats are raised, the other boosts have a much more dramatic effect. In other words, the higher the item stats, the more you gain from raising training bonus. While you're in the item world, you can raise training bonus by killing item bosses and clearing mystery room fights. Items have an absolute stat cap of 1 trillion for the main 6 stats. It takes a ton of grinding to get that high, and is only really required if you want to do extreme stuff for funsies. You don't need that for all the achievements or anything. I'll talk more about good ways of farming the item world, including all these bonuses, later during postgame. However, that is not the only way to raise the item's base stats. We can now look at the item worlder NPC itself, because it offers some other functionalities besides going into the actual item world. One of these things is trading in items for item points. The amount of points an item is worth is dramatically affected by its rank, its rarity, its level, and the difficulty of the item, so if it's a normal item, carnage item, or Rakshasa. The higher any of these are, the more points you get. Points can then be spent on item enhancements. There are enhancements for increasing some supporting stats like movement, which can make things much more convenient, but there are also different strengths of enhancements to raise the main stats. These enhancements are basically the same thing as training bonuses, just for one specific base stat. The enhancement for increased stat a little is about the same as one training bonus, but increased stat a ton is about 10,000 training bonuses each. So honestly, forget about training bonuses themselves. Farming item points for enhancing stats is a lot more efficient. Of course, focusing on damage dealing stats like attack and int is your main priority here. A last note, having stat raising innocence on the item when you enhance it increases the effect. I'm going to go over innocence right after this, but there's a group of innocence that directly raise specific stats when they're on an item. The more of these you have, the more effective an enhancement is for that stat. Each stack of these single stat raising innocence caps at 99 million each. And there's no soft cap, having multiple on the item will still give you the benefits of all of it. Item points also let you buy innocence, like straight up. So it's time to talk about innocents. Innocents are little dudes you can slap onto an item for passive effects, and you can freely move them around from item to item at the item world or NPC. Each innocent has its own max value it can be, which is usually also the max benefit you can ever get from it, even if you have more of that innocent on your unit. The big exception to this is the aforementioned stat boosting innocents. Each type of innocent does something different. For example, there's a group of innocents dedicated to raising certain gains. The most notable one is the statistician innocent, which increases your experience gain by plus 1% per statistician value. The maximum a statistician can be is 900, for plus 900% more experience, or 10 times. Even if you have more statisticians on your unit, plus 900% is the max bonus you can get. As you can imagine, this one is very important. Innocents are either unsubdued or subdued. The default state they come in is unsubdued, which is what the red icon means. When an innocent is unsubdued, they have a chance of appearing on a floor of the item world when you're in that item. They'll appear as a neutral unit, and killing that innocent in the item world is how you subdue it. Subduing innocents doubles their value right off the bat. So if an innocent is at level 50 unsubdued, it'll shoot up to level 100. I'll talk about squads later, but there's one particular squad called the Hunter Team, and when you level it up all the way, it gives another 2 times boost to the subduing bonus. So if a member of that squad subdues an innocent, its value will quadruple instead of double. Also, members of this squad will insta-kill innocents at that point too. The only real difference between subdued and unsubdued innocents is that subdued innocents can be combined together to make one innocent of equal value, unless that value is capped for the innocent. This is important for being able to have higher value innocents on an item and to fit more of them. Looping back around to the item world or NPC and item points, you can only buy innocents up to half of what their max stack is, with the idea that you need to subdue them to get the other half. The item world or NPC also lets you use the innocent farm. You see, subduing innocents is not the only way to raise their level. If you can't afford to buy them with item points, you can raise their level with the innocent farm instead. When it comes to single stat innocents that have absurdly high caps, they're so expensive to buy that the innocent farm is just genuinely more efficient anyway. You need someone in the innocent farm squad to use this, by the way. The idea here is that innocents slowly grow in the farm while you do other things. Time passes when you clear maps. An innocent can only grow so much from its original value, and when that limit is reached, you'll see a star next to it. However, innocents can also breed here. If there are empty slots on the farm, 2 innocents will get freaky and birth a new one with a fraction of its parent's value. The new one will be of the same type as one of its parents, so if all the innocents in the farm are of the same type, you're guaranteed to get more of that type. You can increase the growth rate and the spawn rate of new innocents by leveling up the innocent farm squad. Normally, innocents born here will be born unsubdued by default, but leveling up the squad lets them be born subdued, with double the value they would have otherwise. There's no way to reverse squad levels, so that does mean you'll miss out on the potential quadrupling you could get by subduing them manually, but I think the ability to not have to do that and just keep letting the innocent farm take its course is more efficient and convenient anyway. The general strategy here is to auto-battle some map to quickly grow and breed new innocents, then combining them together once they're subdued, then growing those newly combined higher level innocents more, birthing new ones, and up you go. Always keep 2 high value innocents in the farm so they can breed better ones than they could otherwise. Also, if you combine an innocent with a star with one that doesn't, the star will be removed on the new combined innocent, and it can keep growing. This is a very important facility for basically getting any innocent you want leveled up relatively quickly. Now, there is a special type of innocent that is completely removed from the normal ones we've talked about so far. These are neither subdued nor unsubdued, but rather lie in a sinister third state. These are unique innocents, and their icons are green. The thing about unique innocents is that you can only ever have one equipped on an item at a time, and there is no way to transfer a unique innocent from one item to another. You can only gain unique innocents in the item world, so they're always tied to the item that you're inside of. You can switch out the unique innocent on your item for any other one you own for that item in the item enhancement section of the item world or NPC. The way you gain unique innocents is by killing item gods. Every time you kill an item god, you get a random one. There are around 50 unique innocents in the game, so if you want a specific one, you just gotta play the RNG game. Luckily, you can just Gensi out after killing an item god to keep the unique innocent you got, and then go back in to get another, and you can keep trying that way. Or if you don't care about keeping all of them and want to save on Gensis, you can Gensi out once and save, then keep reloading to kill the item god. Some notable ones are ones that make all of your attacks automatically have a certain elemental affinity, one for each of the 3 elements that aren't star, one that increases stat growth when leveling up by 10%, one that makes your movement type flying, meaning you can automatically move between enemies and obstacles. There are some pretty good ones. Related to the item world is item research. This is a separate NPC. It functions much like Netherworld Research did in Disgaea 5, but for items instead. It's essentially an automated way to do the item world, if auto-battling wasn't automated enough. If you want to farm levels or innocence automatically while you do other things, this is your place to go. You can dispatch squads from your party to explore items, but the units you send can't be used in normal battles, so don't send anyone important. They just have to be strong enough to survive the item. When you send units, you can prioritize from 3 different categories: enhancing, which focuses on levels, subduing innocents that are on the item, gathering items from the item world, and gathering essence for the juice bar. You can choose multiple, but choosing one means that option will be much more heavily prioritized. As time goes by, which means clearing battles, you can view a progress report of what the team's been up to in the item. It doesn't take much for a unit to survive in item research, even in high-ranking Rakshasa items, so it can be a great way to auto-level items and or gather more high-ranking items from the item world. Along with the fact that every item you get is at the max level you've gotten that item to before. If you level a whole bunch of items here, it creates a snowball effect of then finding those items in item research at those higher levels, or just yourself if you're in the item world, drastically increasing the amount of item points you can farm, so definitely don't sleep on it. The one downside is that a dispatched team can only search for 50 days, after which they'll get tired and you have to manually bring them back and redispatch them. Next up, we have the Squad Shop. The Squad Shop lets you put units in squads for passive effects. Simple, but effective. Each squad has a max capacity of units you can put in it, and you can also level up squads to make them even better. You level up squads with the experience you've accumulated in the juice bar. You can also assign one unit in the squad to be the leader, which may or may not matter depending on the squad. There are a ton of squads you can play around with. Some notable ones are the boot camp and channeling squads, which give all the members a portion of experience or mana earned by the leader respectively. There are squads for enhancing various facilities like the Research Support Unit Squad, which increases the effectiveness of item research, or the Innocent Farm Squad, which benefits the Innocent Farm. The Ability Squad lets units in the squad learn more Evilities at a time when super reincarnating. Very notable, the Overlord's Guard Squad dramatically increases stat growth rate when leveling up, but slashes experience earned by the members to only a quarter. It's definitely worth leveling all the squads you can and playing around with them. Then there's the Quest Shop. Not too much to say about this one. This is your basic RPG side quest shenanigans where you can take on quests for various rewards. There are 2 kinds of quests here: common quests and unique quests. Common quests are randomized after every battle and don't matter much in the grand scheme of things. They're made to be redoable. The unique ones are the ones highlighted in green and are much more interesting, since these can only be done once and therefore can give you important game-altering rewards. Most importantly, these are where you can find the quests that unlock new generic classes to recruit. Also, a bunch of them give you scrolls for various abilities. Last, but certainly not least, is the Cheat Shop. The Cheat Shop is extremely important, and it does basically what it sounds like. It straight up lets you modify a bunch of parameters of the game, including how much experience, mana, hell, weapon mastery experience, special skill experience, and subclass experience you get. You're totally intended to use this, it's not just a cheat machine. The kicker is that you only get a certain amount of cheat points to allocate, which affects the percentage of gains you get. So generally, when you want to increase one thing, you must decrease another to keep it balanced. The maximum percent gain you can allocate points to for each thing dramatically increases by progressing post-game content. Ultimately, passing the bill to unlock the Rakshasa dimension increases the gains to their absolute maximum, which is 3000%. Along with manipulating your gains, you can change the strength of enemies using stars, with a max strength of 20 stars. This is a direct increase in enemy levels and stats, so you'll naturally get more for killing them. It's a good way to further increase your gains if you can handle stronger enemies. Completing the main story gets you access to some neat extra settings too, like Back to Square One, which gives you the option to play maps the way they appeared on your first clear, since maps tend to change on revisits. An extremely important function to the cheat shop unique to Disgaea 6 is auto-selling. You see, auto-battling so much and for so long is bound to absolutely clog up your inventory, which only has a max of 2,000 items, by the way. So in the cheat shop, you have options to automatically sell anything you get, and you can break it down by category. So if you're hunting for just one specific kind of item, you can auto-sell everything except for the category that item falls in. This is really useful for farming Gensis and Divers by auto-selling everything except for etc. items, or farming item points by selling everything except rare and legendary items. You have the option to sell normally for hell or sell for item points. However, the amount they auto-sell for is only a small fraction of what they sell for normally, like around 1% or so. So if you're truly trying to farm item points, you keep the higher rarity ones so you can sell them manually to the item worlder. And that's about it for all the different NPCs and facilities in the hub world. Now, you're probably wondering, what do I actually do? Well, first I'll start by touching on some good grinding maps you'll hit during the main story. Then I'll talk about good ways to grind out all kinds of things that you'll want to do during postgame before moving on to the rest of the actual content and how to clear it. Due to the nature of Disgaea 6's absurd level and stat inflation, there's not really an equivalent of the level 99 trick we've seen in past games. Instead, some maps are just better than others, I suppose. Map 2-3 is pretty nice since it just has the one boss character on plus 50% experience geo panels, and on revisits he revives 3 times, so you're basically getting 4 enemies worth in one go on top of that. Nice and simple. 6-5 on revisits literally just has one experience lucky board. Lucky boards are special enemies that are designed to give you a lot of whatever gain they represent, in this case experience. The kicker is that they have to be one-shotted, or else they take 0 damage thanks to their unique Evility. Also, I found 7-4 to be pretty nice. It doesn't have experience boosts on it, but revisits are nice and simple, with only these 3 enemies right in front of the base panel to contend with. Also, any stage with the God of Destruction on it is automatically going to be crazy good, because God of Destruction enemies give a ton of experience compared to other enemies. The problem with that in the early game is that all the maps that feature Gods of Destruction are only on the first visit. They'll be replaced on revisits. After you clear the main story though, you can turn on the back to square one option in the cheat shop to freely fight them again. There's an entire extra set of stages called Martial Stages, which exist to help you grind. The first stage is relevant to the main story, as the build to unlock it appears in the assembly during Chapter 7. This is the only martial map you can get before clearing the main story, but it's a very good map to grind on, given that on revisits it simply has 3 enemies on plus 50% experience, mana, and hell geo panels. Honestly, grinding in Disgaea 6 is a lot easier in the early stages than in other games, thanks to how quickly stats and levels raise. But when it comes to post-game, it's structured in a peculiar way compared to other Disgaea entries, in that it's cyclical. You can't hit maximum level right away. You'll be hitting your current max level before you can increase it, then hit your new current max by grinding stronger enemies you have access to, and so on. Functionally, you're just doing the same exact thing multiple times over. So in this next section, before I even go into the post-game itself and all the content you'll be going through, I'm going to call out a couple of classes that are generally pretty important and useful, as well as go over some experience and stat raising methods. Basically all the tools you need to grind your way through all of it. And then I'll go over all of the actual content itself and how to unlock it. I will say right now that items, like accessories, are practically useless for boosting your stats early on. That's more of an endgame kind of thing, so I'll touch on leveling items and raising item stats much later. There are a few classes that are just really neat and that you might want to focus on when leveling. I mean, really, you can use anyone. Hell, I just used Mysador and Zed as my main attackers when I played. But there are other units who have really good skills that can come in handy when optimizing builds or dealing large amounts of damage. The one big one you'll see touted around constantly when it comes to Disgaea 6, and for very good reason, is the Mecha Girl. Specifically, her tier 6 version is called the War Lady. The Mecha Girl requires more experience than other classes to level up, but at level 6000, she learns a skill that is unbelievably powerful, not in raw damage, oh god, not in raw damage, but in range. Full Strike. Full Strike is not very strong. Think of it like the Sage's Land Decimator from Disgaea 5. Amazing range, poor damage compared to other special skills. In the case of Full Strike, that range comes out like a cone in the direction the unit's facing, and extends forever. Not exactly as all-encompassing as Land Decimator, but also doesn't have any of the weird downsides Land Decimator had either. It functions just like a normal special skill. Despite the poor relative damage, Full Strike is a monster when it comes to clearing maps and grinding the item world for its huge range. And the fact that it can target so many units at once can have great utility all on its own. Another class worth pointing out is the Witch, and that's because it has a skill new to Disgaea 6. At level 6000, the Witch learns Elemental Burst. Elemental Burst doesn't have a set SP cost. Instead, it automatically uses up all the SP you have left, and the damage it deals is proportional to how much SP you used, taken as a percentage of your max. The higher percentage of your max SP you use, the higher the damage. This skill is unbelievably powerful in raw damage, and it even has some range too, 4 panels in front of the unit. You'll see it come up in many specific builds and strategies for this game, especially because the Witch also has an ability she can buy from the shop, and therefore any class can buy if they master that sub-rank, called Magic Collection, which refills SP equal to 5% of the damage you dealt, letting you reuse Elemental Burst. The last class I highly recommend you level up is the Thief, since thieves are quite literally your only way to steal in this game. Their unique skill Cat Snatch gives you a small chance, which raises when you enhance it. As usual, it pits your hit stat against the enemy's speed stat to determine the chance. Since hands don't exist in this game, you need a strong thief to steal things as reliably as possible. You can give her the ability Pretty Phantom Thief from Fuka to double her steal chance as well. And now, probably the section you've all been waiting for, how do you get experience fast? If you've already tinkered with the game enough, you'll probably also be wondering how to gain karma fast. Effectively, these are one and the same, since your main way of gaining karma is by reincarnating. The higher level you reincarnate at, the more karma you get, so it's a vicious cycle of leveling as quickly as you can and reincarnating over and over. One of the most basic experience increasing mechanics is in the demerit system. There's a set of demerits related to mastering individual ranks of a subclass. Each one gives the unit a permanent passive boost in experience earned, and fully mastering one subclass passively boosts experience by 295% in total. That's just a very basic function of the game that I thought was worth pointing out. Another relatively straightforward tool is the aforementioned Statistician Innocent. You can simply buy some from the item worlder and then raise them in the farm. Once you get a stack of 900 Statisticians, which is the max benefit you can get from them, that's already a plus 900% or 10 times experience boost right there. There are also a lot of Evilities that can help out with experience, but I'll talk about those in conjunction with the main method I'm going to outline for farming experience right now, the 100 Prinny method. This is by far one of the most effective methods of grinding experience, and it's not even that difficult to set up. This method abuses the Hogall experience bill. Because of how experience is handled in this game, the best way to optimize it is by focusing on one singular character. All your experience boosting effects only need to go on one unit who's doing the killing. The more experience they earn, the more experience every unit gets across the board. And so, the more units are on said board, the more experience is being dished out in total, which then means more experience for a unit who passed the Hogall experience bill, since they're getting more units worth of experience at once. Now, the dispatch limit is only 10, so of course we can only give 10 units worth of experience to someone at a time, right? I present to you the Evility Recycle Spirit. Recycle Spirit can be bought by a unit who's mastered the rank 5 Prinny subclass. What Recycle Spirit does is refill a dispatch slot if a unit dies by exploding, allowing you to replace them. And since experience allocation takes into account any unit who fought on the map, including those who died, theoretically you can have more than 10 units on the board at the end of the map. The 10 units on the map when the stage was cleared, and anyone who previously died by exploding with this Evility and was then replaced. And what class is easily susceptible to exploding? Yeah, okay, so what if we just made a metric shit ton of Prinnies and then threw them all at each other so they blow up over and over again to artificially pump up the amount of units who get the experience earned on the map, and then shove all of that onto one unit who passed the Hogall experience bill. Yeah, you can do that. Obviously, the downside to this is that you're only leveling one unit at a time, but it's still among the most effective experience farming methods, especially with the way karma works. You want to get characters to max level as quick as possible to keep farming it. The basic setup is this: make 100 Prinnies. Yes, actually. I mean, you can use however many you want, but 100 is a nice round number, and the more the merrier. Make sure they all stay at level 1. This will always be the case if you remember to pass the Hogall experience bill before each clear. The reason for this is because of another bill I'll mention soon. You're gonna auto-battle the hell out of this, by the way, like with most anything in this game. Put Recycle Spirit on every single Prinny. You can just make scrolls to do this instantly. Because you can only have 10 units on the map at a time, you want to break your team into groups of 10. Every single Prinny in their Demonic Intelligence setup is going to be coded to wait until other units have acted. The first Prinny of each group of 10, so on your list that's the first Prinny, the 11th Prinny, and so on, is going to also have wait as their first command, but then target nearest unit, lift, target nearest unit again, throw. This ensures all 10 Prinnies come out, then the first one throws the nearest Prinny at the nearest Prinny, making them all explode, and the next 10 Prinnies all come out and do the same thing, and so on. Since everyone has Recycle Spirit, all 10 dispatch slots, when they all die and explode, are given back to you, so you can keep dispatching. Then, whoever you want to use as your actual final team of 10, just make sure your killer is coded to attack and everyone else stays behind. And there you have it, 100 characters worth of experience on the board. Before every single run, you want to pass a few bills. Obviously, the first is Hogall experience, but the triple experience bill also works with this, so pass that too. And finally, this third bill is why it's essential for all Prinnies to stay at level 1. Throw a welcome party. This triples the experience earned by units below level 10. You have 100 of those on the board. But we can do even better. This is all without even taking into account personal experience modifiers. Again, all experience that goes into the pool is directly affected by the killing unit's XP boosts. So we can supercharge the experience we earn even more by pumping them up with experience increasing abilities. Of course, you want your 900 statisticians. The next biggest boost you can get comes from some special DLC abilities. Prinny Instructor from Valvatores and Prinny Hat from Fuka. If a unit has Prinny Instructor equipped, it gives every Prinny in the same squad as that unit a plus 100% boost to experience, mana, and subclass experience earned. And it stacks. Prinny Instructor doesn't apply to the wearer themselves. This means that if a Prinny is in a squad, and multiple other members of that squad all have Prinny Instructor equipped, every single one of those Prinny Instructors goes to the Prinny for a cumulative boost. But we need our killer to have those boosts, not some Prinny. That's where Fuka's Prinny Hat comes in. Prinny Hat simply treats a unit like a Prinny, so just give this ability to whoever you want to receive the benefits. Alternatively, you can just put everyone in the Prinny squad, which automatically treats its members like Prinnies. The difference between the Prinny squad and Prinny Hat is that members of the Prinny squad explode when thrown, and that doesn't happen with Prinny Hat. However, it must be noted that Prinny Instructor is a little bit nerfed here compared to Disgaea 5, because now units with Prinny Instructor on have to also be deployed on the map to give out the benefit. It's not enough to just be in the same squad. This isn't actually said in its description, but it's true. And this actually goes for most abilities that affect other squad members, like bodyguards as well. So all the members of the squad giving out the Prinny Instructor boost should also be the units that are on the map when it's cleared. This effectively caps the amount of members that can give out the boost at once to 9. So all you need to do is equip Prinny Hat on your killer, put them in a squad with all 9 of the other units who will be on the map at the end of the stage, put Prinny Instructor on those 9 units, and that's another 900% of experience. Now, there's a whole group of abilities in this game dedicated to raising some aspect of gains, whether that's stat growth or experience earned or whatever. There are generally 5 of them for each thing, and they come in 10%, 20%, 40%, 80%, and 100% variants. And of course, they all stack. For the experience ones, the 10% one is a demon class ability, and the 20% one is an overlord class, so they can just be bought from the shop when the required level threshold are met for demerits and then turned into scrolls. All the others are super reincarnation abilities, so you gotta play the RNG game until you get them each once, then turn them into scrolls. You'll have enough ability slots to slap all 5 of these on one character, so that's another 250% experience. Another useful ability is Happy Song. It simply gives 30% more experience to every unit on the map. So if all 10 of your final units have this on, that's another 300%. And yes, you will still have enough ability slots left on your character to also equip Happy Song. Lastly, Voracious Spirit does basically the same thing, but for a 25% boost per ability. This one comes from Plenair. You won't have enough slots on your killer for this after everything else, so that's a total of 9 Voracious Spirits for 225% more experience. Between the statisticians and all the abilities, that's well over 25 times the experience, on top of all the bills we passed, all compounded by the 100 Prinny method. Note that experience is directly correlated to the level of enemies you defeat. If you're in the endgame, aka Rakshasa dimension, setting cheat shop stars to 7 will make the Gods of Destruction on map 14-4 max level, 99 million. Using this map, which is the best, with 3000% cheat shop points to experience, with the 100 Prinny method loadout I just mentioned, I'm getting about 9 quadrillion experience at a time for a unit, which is enough to get anyone from level 1 to level 99 million in just 2 battles max. Some unit types take more experience to level up than others, so some only take 1 battle with this, and some still take 2 to get the rest of the way. Now, even when you level up, you might find that your stats are a little underwhelming. At least it can feel like that in the very end game once you're in or past Rakshasa. Either way though, there are some simple tools we can use to get our stats up, and they all involve stat growth boosts, which make you gain more stats than normal when you level up. The most basic of the basics is just mastering all your subclasses, which is trivial with the juice bar once you're far enough in postgame. However, there's much more you can do on top of that. For example, the Overlord's Guard Squad. This functions like the Elite 4 squad in Disgaea 5, where members of the squad get a boost in stat growth but only gain a quarter of the experience. That is totally fine though, because hilariously, if you're using the Hogall experience bill, the rest of your party who isn't in this squad is unaffected in the experience they earn, and that full amount is all going to the hogging unit anyway, so it hardly matters. Just don't have your killer in here. At the default level, the squad gives you plus 50% stat growth, but at max level, it totals to plus 150%. That's already pretty significant, but remember those groups of abilities I mentioned that all focus on raising a particular gain? These include specific stats. Stat growth abilities, just like the experience ones, come in 10%, 20%, 40%, 80%, and 100% varieties, with all of them coming from the same place as the experience ones. You can easily slap all of these on the character you're power leveling for an extra 250% stat growth. Of course, you want this mainly for damage dealing stats like attack or int. If you really want to go for broke, there's also a unique innocent called Secret Trainer. If you grind an item god for this on a random piece of equipment and have it on while leveling, the Secret Trainer provides an extra 10% of stat growth. Between these and Overlord's Guard, your damage dealing stat will be much higher than normal. Speaking in endgame terms here, a unit at level 99 million, with Rakshasa capability maxed at 2000 for a stat, will usually have that stat at around the 200 to 400 billion mark. Leveling with all the stat growth tools I just mentioned though, can land that stat at around the 1.5 trillion mark instead. So, with all of that out of the way, let's go over the specifics of the actual post-game content and your general grinding cycle. Disgaea 6 is comprised of 3 main sections, which are frequently referred to in-game as difficulties or dimensions. I'll be using these interchangeably, and I'll elaborate more on how they work when we get further in. There's the normal dimension, then the carnage dimension, then the Rakshasa dimension. Each dimension consists of its own maps, some new martial maps, and a fight against the super boss Baal. They each also allow you to further raise your maximum level and capability caps. Now, even though martial maps are literally there to help you with grinding, past the main story, 14-4 with Back to Square 1 on to get the Gods of Destruction is kinda just better. In each big dimension, 2 martial maps open up for a total of 6, and all of them require assembly bills to unlock. They also require all the previous martial maps to be completed alongside the other prerequisites for getting the bill. The normal difficulty, or the normal dimension, is everything until after postlude. The postlude is immediately after the main story. Here, your level is capped at 9,999, as are the enemies' levels. Additionally, the bill for Martial Map 1 appears in the assembly in Chapter 7 of the main story. The bill for Martial 2 unlocks after finishing the main story, and you have to complete Martial 1. Also after you clear the main story, the bill to unlock the postlude story appears in the assembly. The postlude is a series of maps where you fight the Disgaea 1 trio a handful of times, with the final map containing enemies that are at level 9,999. Clearing the postlude will do many things. This is considered completing normal difficulty, and now we see our first big dimension jump. First off, clearing the postlude lets you recruit the Disgaea 1 trio, Laurel, Etna, and Flan, so that's how you unlock them. But also, right off rip, 2 significant bills appear in the assembly. One is to unlock your first fight against Super Overlord Baal, simply titled Challenge the Super Overlord. Then there's the big one, Challenge the Carnage Dimension. Passing this bill will, among many other things, unlock the Carnage Dimension. Before I go into those other things, a little bit on how the dimensions work now that we're here. The Carnage and Rakshasa dimensions both unlock a set of 5 maps, and clearing these maps constitutes as clearing that dimension. The Carnage and Rakshasa dimensions aren't just their own series of maps though. Hitting these milestones affects the entire game. For one, hitting them lets you change the difficulty of existing story maps. So once you get to the Carnage dimension, for example, not only do you unlock 5 unique Carnage maps, but you can play pre-existing maps on Carnage difficulty. The exception to this is martial maps, which only ever have their one set difficulty, as well as the Carnage and Rakshasa specific maps themselves, of course. Enemies are still affected by cheat shop difficulty stars on top of this. The other big thing is the new item class. When you're in Carnage difficulty content, you can get Carnage items just like you get normal items in normal difficulty maps. I already went over this when talking about items in general in the shop section of the video. These are all the same items as normal, just stronger, so think of them no differently than you've been thinking about getting items before. When you're in anything Carnage related, you get Carnage items, and same with Rakshasa. This includes the item worlds of Carnage and Rakshasa items, which, as you may expect, are much more difficult than their normal item world counterparts, and feature enemies in the appropriate level ranges for those difficulties. So, back to specifics. Passing the bill for unlocking the Carnage dimension opens the 5 Carnage maps. Additionally, it raises your cheat shop points to a new cap of 1000% per gain. It also unlocks the bill in the assembly for the 3rd martial map. And last, but certainly not least, passing this bill unlocks the capability limit and level limit break karma abilities. This is how you raise your level cap, but it's also how you raise your capability limit. They're abilities that you must purchase with karma per character upon super reincarnation. It's not just one blanket passive across the game. If a character hasn't purchased the level and capability breaks, they will still be capped normally. I mentioned how capability, which is the max points you can allocate to any stat on Super Reincarnation, is initially capped at 255 each. Well, the Carnage cap, after obtaining this first capability limit karma ability, is 500. So not only can you level up more, you can pump up your base stats more on top of that. The Carnage level cap, after purchasing this first level cap break karma ability, is 9,999,999, 3 orders of magnitude above the normal difficulty level cap. The bill for Martial Training 4, by the way, is unlocked right away upon clearing Martial 3. The enemies in the Carnage 5 map are only about 5 million for whatever reason, so you can easily grind to the Carnage max level and wipe it. Upon clearing Carnage 5, the bill to unlock Carnage difficulty Baal will unlock. Alongside it, the bill for unlocking the Rakshasa dimension. Passing the Rakshasa dimension bill does basically all the same things that the Carnage dimension bill did, but again. It raises your cheat shop points to a final maximum of 3000%, unlocks the Martial 5 bill, and unlocks another capability limit break and your final level limit break. Purchasing this new level break with karma grants you access to the final, actual level cap of 99 million, 1 order of magnitude above the Carnage level cap. The Rakshasa capability limit raises very significantly from 500 to 2000. Oh, and then the build for Martial Training 6, the final one, just appears when you complete Martial Training 5. But we're not done quite yet, because clearing Rakshasa 5, which is much more of an uphill battle than Carnage 5 was, by the way, and I will go over it, still unlocks a whole bunch of stuff. For one, the build for unlocking the final and most difficult ball fight in the game, Rakshasa Baal. But then you also get access to more Super Reincarnation abilities. The most significant one is actually a stat limit break. See, normally your main 6 stats are capped at 999 billion. The cap after purchasing this new stat limit break raises to an actual absolute cap of 9 trillion. Insert the rest of the 9s here. One more order of magnitude. And then there's yet another capability limit break, which is called Yasha. There's no Yasha dimension, but this is the post-Rakshasa limits. Yasha capability is capped at a whopping 4,000. I'm gonna give it to you straight though, the karma cost for raising capability past 2,000 skyrockets, and stays at the exact same cost from that point onwards. That cost is unbelievably steep. Super Reincarnating at level 99 million gives you about 125 million karma. Each capability point past 2,000 costs 5 million per point. This means you can only raise capability by 25 points per Super Reincarnation. If you crunch the numbers, for an extra 2,000 points at this rate, you need about 80 Super Reincarnations at max level. Doable, but very tedious. 2,000 capability will serve you just fine. A big choke point you may encounter in this post-game gauntlet is the very last map, Rakshasa 5. This map has enemies right at the level cap of 99 million, a fitting challenge. The big trouble units here are the 2 horsemen. They're already tanky by nature of their class, but their Evility loadouts were practically designed in a laboratory to give them as much extra defense as possible. Oh, and also there's a mecha girl in the back that'll be full striking your ass. However, none of this actually matters. Your own mecha girl goes brrr. Despite the enemy's absurdly high levels and stats, it might seem like the mecha girl's full strike is out of the question due to the pitiful damage it deals. But actually, there's a neat strategy to make it work rather beautifully. See, it's already easy to get in a bunch of full strikes before you can be touched due to how far away you start. But that won't even matter anyway if you just, paralyze them. First, this abuses status ailments and some Evilities that synergize with them to give you more damage. Due to the boss element Evilities that Rakshasa enemies have, poison damage is drastically reduced, but it's okay, they can still be affected by it, and that's all we need. However, they can't be afflicted with Charm, Forget, or Sleep, since their Evilities make them immune to those. So there are 3 we care about: Poison, Paralysis, and Weaken. There's a set of Innocents that each give you a % chance to inflict a certain status ailment. These Innocents cap out at 100 each, which gives you a 100% chance to inflict the ailment. For Poison, Paralysis, and Weaken, these Innocents are the Alchemist, Witch Doctor, and Drainer, respectively. You can easily just buy a stack of 50 each and then slap them on an item to subdue them for 100. You don't even have to do it manually, you can item research the item and go auto-battle a stage a number of times, and they'll be subdued. This is pretty convenient for subduing multiple Innocents at a time. So now, armed with your 100% chance to inflict 3 status ailments at once, there are a couple of Evilities that help you out. One of them is Cursed Gaze, which decreases enemy defense by 20% per status ailment they're inflicted with. So that's already minus 60% defense. This comes from a rank 5 Evil Eye subclass. Then there's an Evility called Poison Chance, which comes from a rank 2 Undead. This increases the damage dealt to enemies afflicted with poison by an extra plus 100%. Also Hawkeye from the Gunner class. This makes your accuracy 100% when attacking from more than 3 panels away. Then you can slap on whatever other damage increasing Evilities you like. If your mecha girl has gotten to max level with all the stat growth methods to put her attack at around 1.5 trillion, she can just stand there and, win. Since everyone will be paralyzed too, they won't even be able to move. Oh, and make sure full strike is fully enhanced, of course. Just be mindful of what weapon you have equipped, because it can be bad with some of the enemy's resistances. I learned that the hard way from having a fist equipped. One of the enemies has a really high fist resistance, so it didn't quite work. I had a good time using a sword. This is the strongest you have to be for achievements, by the way. Clearing the Rakshasa dimension is it. Defeating Rakshasa Baal, or any Baal, is not an achievement, but I'm still going to go over the fight. Believe it or not, you can tackle Rakshasa Baal right away, right at this very point in postgame, assuming 0 stars. 20-star Rakshasa Baal isn't much different, and you can use the same strategy for either difficulty, but the difference, of course, is how strong your damage dealer has to be in terms of stats. I'll go over the fight and this method for defeating him near the end of the guide, but it would feel incomplete without at least touching on how to strengthen items and pump up your stats even further. This particular aspect of the game is heavy on grinding methods and optimizing Evilities and strategies. I'm not going to go terribly in depth, but I hope to at least give you an idea of what it looks like so you can get the ball rolling. Also, because I've never done very much of it myself, I've done more trying to research it for this guide than I ever did when I personally played through the game on my own. I'll link some good guides in the description that go into more detail about specific builds. Strengthening items primarily comes from two things: levels and raising the base stats. As I touched on during the item world section, raising base stats comes from manually getting training bonuses, but also more efficiently and reliably by using the stat enhancements at the item world or NPC. So I'm going to briefly go over which items are good to strengthen, as well as some tips and tricks to leveling high ranking items and grinding item points to be able to afford these stat enhancements. First, which items are the best? Well, there are a few contenders. For one, the tried and true trapezohedron exists, and you can't go wrong with that. The deal with trapezohedrons is that they're the rank 40 emblem type accessories. Emblems have high base stats all around the board, and the trapezohedron is no exception. They have the best all around starting base stats, which makes them much easier and more convenient to strengthen than other items. Of course, since this is a rank 40, you need to steal it from the rank 39 emblem accessory, which is the Arcadia. Fun fact, the Mecha Girl enemy in the Rakshasa V map has a Rakshasa Arcadia equipped, and due to how levels of items equipped on enemies work in this game, it's already at level 1000 to boot. Just make sure you have a thief leveled up to steal from the Mecha Girl and from the item god too, and you're good to go. Make sure you pump up her hit stat. Or alternatively, you can attack the item god too with a unit that has 100 Witch Doctor Innocence, which will guarantee that you inflict paralysis. The neat thing about paralysis is that it sets the unit's speed stat to 1, and since stealing pits your hit against the enemy's speed, that'll give you a much better chance. I'll talk more about easily surviving super strong item world soon. Aside from the trap, however, there's also the Barefoot X. Barefoot X's are the rank 40 shoes, so you can probably guess where the big benefit comes from there. It is simply in their movement. The downside is that their starting base stats are pitiful. In fact, most are 0. Simply enhancing it or even leveling it up won't change that, since those are simply multipliers. If the base stat is 0, well, 0 times anything is still going to be 0. I mentioned before that stat raising innocence give you a bigger training bonus and enhancement boost for that stat. To actually get the ball rolling and permanently raise a stat that starts at 0, you have to get stat raising innocence on the item before enhancing it. Just enhancing it with a 0 base stat still won't do anything. That extra boost though from stat raising innocence will apply though and stay there even when you take the stat raising innocence off. Lastly, there's the Cerberus suit. You can get this from a treasure chest hidden in the base at any point in the game. A keen eye will notice a sneaky little treasure chest behind and under the dimension guide. You can get here by jumping over the crates behind the skill shop and walking over. Inside is the Cerberus suit. You'll notice something strange about it though. Literally every single base stat is 0. The one reason why you would ever want to try strengthening it is because it has by far the highest starting crit rate at 10%. No matter which item you choose to focus on though, here are the general ideas behind strengthening it. First, actually leveling an item. Since levels only come from clearing floors and destroying level spheres, you want to prioritize that above all else. Now, when it comes to rank 40 or even rank 39 Rakshasa items, the enemies are juiced to high hell. They're max level with a few hundred billion in stats, and super difficult to kill reliably if you haven't done much else past leveling up with stat growth boosts. Honestly, the best piece of general advice I can give you is to get all the status ailments inflicting innocence on a Mecha Girl. This can really up the damage that other units can then do to enemies, and it's really easy to do. It's especially good for killing item bosses, most importantly item gods and item god 2s. If you're just concerned with leveling the item though, honestly, just use item research. I'm so serious, a couple of leveled up units focusing on enhanced item will level it up relatively quickly. Due to the 50-day expedition limit, you will have to keep manually redispatching, but it still works. However, if you want to leave your game auto-battling in the background for longer without having to watch it, here's a cheap way to do it in the actual item world. Get a bunch of divers. You can reliably get divers by just auto-battling any old item world from the bonus gauge. And if you change your cheat shop settings to auto-sell everything except etc. category items, you'll accumulate a ton. The neat thing about the item world is that using a diver counts as clearing a floor. I got one Rakshasa trapezohedron to max level by simply DIing units to enter the field and then just use a diver immediately on every floor. You can save time and divers by also targeting level spheres. Those should still be weak enough to reliably full strike with a Mecha Girl. You can set your DI up like this. For the Mecha Girl, target level sphere, move to furthest valid attack range, use full strike. For your diver user, wait until all units have acted, use diver 5. Diver 5s are the most common divers, and you need to specify a specific item to use, so that's the one. The downside to this is that you do need to stop to farm more divers when you run out. I point out this method because that really is only when you're concerned about leveling the item. It's cheap, it's quick, it's dirty. The bulk of an item's stats on top of this though comes from enhancing it. The only thing that matters for that is how efficiently you can farm item points. Each increased stat a ton enhancement costs a whopping 100 million points, and you're going to realize when using these that with the amount each one individually actually gives you, you are going to need a lot, easily billions of item points in total to get anywhere substantial. Therefore, we are going to need a lot of items fast. The item point worth of an item is based on its rank, rarity, difficulty, and level, and since Rakshasa item worlds are so damn strong, we can't even farm them very reliably. So what do we do? Well, there are two main approaches you can take, a quality approach or a quantity approach. In both approaches, the fact that any item you obtain will be at the max level you've ever gotten that item to before will be a massive help. There's a huge item point difference between a level 1 item and a level 9999 item. Now, unfortunately, since auto-selling only gives you a tiny fraction of the item's worth, you can't just set everything to auto-sell for item points and leave it at that. What you're going to want to do is instead auto-sell everything except rare or legendary rarity items. This is because lower rarities just aren't even worth clogging up your inventory with. Higher rarities sell for much more, so you can single those out and then sell them manually. When I say quantity approach, it's about what it sounds like. If you can't farm Rakshasa, you can take it down a notch and focus on Carnage items, which you should be able to farm a hell of a lot faster. You see, in any Carnage item, the Mecha Girl should just be able to full strike everything instantaneously. You can literally just lower her full strike strength in the skill shop so it doesn't cost so much damn SP, and DI her to go to the farthest valid attack range from enemies and spam full strike. This gets you items from the bonus cage and from chests on the map fast. If you're in a high-ranking item, chances are that you'll be encountering a lot of the same certain types of items. That is, high-ranking consumables like sundaes or mushroom soups. Take note of the ones you see a lot, and while you're auto-battling, I highly recommend item researching these item types to level them up in the background. Slowly, you'll be gathering items at higher and higher levels automatically this way, which makes you able to sell them for more, snowballing the amount of item points you can accumulate on average. The quality approach is basically doing the same thing, but only focusing on item researching the Rakshasa versions instead. See, your expedition crews still get items during missions, which you'll get when you bring them back, so leveling those items through research will make you find them at higher levels and around and around. Rakshasa items sell for so much more than Carnage items, so even if you're not getting as many, you can still farm item points relatively quickly by consistently getting super high level Rakshasa items through research. However you go about it, strengthening items in Disgaea 6 is a grindy ass task. Thankfully, if you want to defeat the strongest super boss, you don't really have to do it. Okay, for 0 stars you don't. For 20 stars, yeah, you probably still have to do a fair amount of item enhancing. But without any further ado, let's talk about that super boss. This is the final challenge the game has to throw at you. Super Overlord Baal of the Rakshasa variety. Now, I've hardly talked about Baal in general, so let's rectify that so you get an idea of how these fights work. There are 3 Baal fights in the game, a normal difficulty Baal, a Carnage difficulty Baal, and a Rakshasa difficulty Baal. Each one is at the max level of their respective difficulty, rendering any Baal fight that's not Rakshasa Baal irrelevant since you could just level up more and destroy them. As a reward for defeating normal Baal, you get a Baal sword, a normal difficulty item. For defeating Carnage Baal, you get a Makai Wars, a special accessory. And for defeating Rakshasa Baal, you get a Rakshasa Neo Baal sword. Baal has multiple phases, and each fight has one more phase than the last. Every phase after the first has extra enemies on the map. You only need to kill Baal himself to clear a phase, except for the last phase of each fight, where you do need to defeat every single enemy. Normal Baal has 2 phases, Carnage has 3, and Rakshasa has a whopping 4 phases. Rakshasa Baal starts off with a staggering 5 trillion in all the main 6 stats, and 500 quintillion health, which all slowly increases each phase. His last phase puts him at around 9 trillion in the main 6 stats. He also has at least a 50% resistance to all attack types with an even higher 75% in the non-star elements. Thankfully, Baal does not have his signature Ultimate Force Evility, where he attacks you just for coming out of the base panel, so we're free to deploy units as we like. However, he does have an Evility that decreases all of your resistances, minus 25% for weapons and minus 50% for elements. So with Baal's higher elemental resistance and specialty for lowering your elemental resistance, it seems like this fight really discourages using elemental attacks. Don't care, elemental burst go brrrr. Yeah, we're using the witch for this. Her elemental burst skill is going to be our big damage dealer, so make sure you have a tier 6 witch, which is the Galaxy Mage, at around 1.5 trillion int, which you can get from her being max level with all the stat growth tools I outlined earlier. This strategy comes from an Imgur post created by Terra from the Disgaea Discord, so huge credit to them, and I'll link this post in the description. I modified it to make it a little easier / more convenient at this strength, so here's specifically how I did it. Diving into the build, we're going to be using water damage. This is mostly because of a really good Evility called Mermaid Chord, which doesn't really correspond to the other elements. We'll decrease Baal's water resistance, pump up ours, and dump all the Evilities onto our characters we possibly can that synergize with water damage, and general damage increases. We'll look at the Witch herself first. For a unique Evility, the Magic Knight's Elemental Force will do us good here. This takes whatever non-negative elemental resistances you have and adds them as a % damage boost to attacks you deal with that element. So a higher water resistance will mean more damage we do with water attacks. Also, when you make magic users, including the Witch, you can select which element they're proficient in, so of course choose water. You can do this on Reincarnation as well. I never went through the trouble of 100%ing demerit, so I only had the one unique slot for my Witch. If you do have a second unique slot though, you can put on Evil Eye, which decreases enemy defense by -30% when you attack them. This one comes from the Evil Eye, okay? If you just have the one slot though, go with Elemental Force. As for common Evilities, Mermaid Chord from Melodia. This is the big one. This increases water damage dealt by 25% per adjacent ally unit. The kicker with this is that units in a tower are also considered adjacent, so if you have a big tower of units, all of those units will count for Mermaid Chord. Then Critical Charge from Piori, which increases crit rate by 5% per tile moved in a turn. We're going to end up guaranteeing crits in combination with another Evility and maximizing movement so we can move all the way to the other end of the map behind Baal. To complement this, Justice Prevails, also from Piori, which increases critical damage by +100%. Magic Collection from the Witch itself to get back all your SP from dealing a shit ton of damage. Face the Formidable from Ivar for 20% more damage against boss units. Assassin's Soul from Super Reincarnation, which nullifies enemies' evasion abilities. This is solely because there's a ninja on the last map that can evade you otherwise and screw up everything. And lastly, you want Gender Bender, a demon class Evility from the shop. There are multiple Evilities we'll be using in this build that benefit male units specifically. Gender Bender changes the gender of a unit, so in this case the Witch will be read as male and benefit from those Evilities. Aside from Evilities, there are some innocents you want on the Witch as well. Since we want to deal crits, 1000 professionals will help squeeze more damage out of them for an extra +100% crit damage. Each professional innocent only increases crit damage by 0.1%, so the max is 1000. There are also innocents that increase elemental damage. Cryophile is the one for water. It caps at 100 and will give you +100% damage to water attacks at that level. And finally, to tie it all together, a unique innocent called the Freezer. Freezer simply makes all attacks water-based. You'll have to grind out an item god until you get a Freezer so you can equip it on your Witch. The Witch should be in a squad with all the other units you'll be using on the map. This is because you can equip the Bodyguard's Evility on all those other units to give the Witch extra damage. Bodyguards comes from Girl Lahorl, and it gives male members in the same squad as the unit plus 5% of extra damage. This only works if the units with Bodyguard are actually deployed on the map. So you can stack up to 45% of extra damage with all 9 other units having Bodyguard and being in the same squad. The Witch will be male because of Gender Bender. Also, this squad should specifically be the Prinny squad, since some Evilities benefit from the units being treated like Prinnies. Don't worry, you won't have to throw allies. Then you're going to want one unit to be your combo starter. You'll be queuing up this unit for an attack first every turn, so that you can use Evilities that benefit the subsequent attacking units in an execution, aka your Witch. For the unique Evility, Assist from the Gunner class. This Evility makes it so that when you queue up and execute multiple attacks at once, every unit after the unit with Assist has a guaranteed 100% accuracy. Then for commons, Kill with Water, which is a demon class Evility from the shop. This decreases water resistance of enemies by -15%. Then Double Up from the Thief, which gives you a 50% chance to perform normal attacks twice. Magical Minicraft from Super Reincarnation, which decreases the stats of the wearer by -10%, but makes their movement flying. This is so they can easily move past enemies on the map. Hawkeye from the Gunner, which makes accuracy 100% when attacking a unit more than 3 panels away, so you're gonna start this combo from a distance. Then Listen to My Song. This Evility comes from Girl Lahorl, and it increases the damage of male ally units by 5% per attack they deal on the map, up to a max of 50%. Double Up will contribute to this. The more this unit attacks, the more Listen to My Song will charge. And the last Evility is Bodyguards. Now, maybe the most grind-heavy part of the setup comes right here. This combo starter unit is also going to want all 4 pieces of equipment to have the Combo Maker Unique Innocent, which means you have to grind an item god for it 4 times. You can easily auto-battle a weak item or spam divers to get there. Have the weapon piece be a gun so you can attack from a distance. The Combo Maker boosts the number of normal attacks you do by 2, so if you fire off a normal attack, you'll then fire off 2 more, per combo maker. So 4 combo makers equals 8 extra attacks equals 9 attacks in total. The double up Evility is there to give you a very good chance at landing 1 extra normal attack on top of this so that you do 10 in one execution. Since the Listen to My Song Evility gives extra damage per attack, this will max it out. 5% per attack to hit the cap of 50% more damage for your witch. On top of all that, doing this builds up a normal combo. Disgaea has a mechanic where the more you attack a unit in one execution, the more of a combo you build up, which accumulates a damage multiplier that increases the higher the combo goes. So units going later in the execution do more damage with that multiplier. So everything about this just serves to ramp up damage. Now, we still have 8 other units we can put on the map. Nearly all of them will have the same Evility loadout, except for 2 units, where we'll just switch 1 Evility each. Also, there are specific characters and classes you want some of these units to be for the skills they have. I'll specify these after the abilities. So, for the remaining units, here's the setup. For unique Evility, Lovely Song from the Sea Angel. This simply increases the stats of all male allies by 3%, so it adds up significantly between all the extra units. For commons, Bodyguards, because of course. Then Kill with Water, again to decrease enemy water resistance per unit with this Evility. Magical Minicraft from Super Reincarnation, again so all your units can fly through enemies. Podiatric Upgrade from Biko to increase movement of adjacent allies by 2 at the start of a turn. Of course, more movement is good, but here's a neat trick. Deploying everyone with Auto Battle makes every single Podiatric upgrade on the team stack automatically. You can just turn Auto Battle on and then off again quickly so everyone gets deployed but doesn't actually do anything. Podiatric Upgrade doesn't apply to the unit themselves, so everyone's movement will be boosted by 1 less of the amount of Podiatric upgrades on the team, times 2. That's quite an insane boost. And combined with Magical Minicraft will allow your units to freely move wherever they need to be. Then Taunt from Etna. This lowers the defense power of adjacent enemy units by minus 10%. Since most units will be part of a tower adjacent to Baal, this stacks nicely. And finally, Lucky Song from the Sea Angel for a plus 5% crit chance each. This is super important to guarantee crits combined with the Witch's critical charge. Now this is the blanket setup for all 8 other units. However, we want to shove a few more things in here. So for 2 of these units, swap out Lucky Song for Hidden Cruelty. Hidden Cruelty comes from Rosalind. If the wearer is under 50% HP, it decreases elemental resistances of enemies by 25% each with a cap of 50%. So 2 units with this on at low health will max it out and plummet Baal's resistances even further. To easily get 2 units at low health, we can use another Evility called Secret Recon from the Ninja, which simply increases movement while setting max HP to 1. You don't have to keep this on, just equip it once to lower your HP, and then you can switch it back out again. This ensures 2 units with Hidden Cruelty are at low HP for the whole fight to keep Baal's resistances down. Also have 1 unit with Dominant Smile on, replace Bodyguards. This boosts the stats of all Prinnies on the map by 30%. Since everyone's in the Prinnie squad, this applies. The very last pieces of the setup involve specific classes and characters you want some of these support units to be, simply because of the way they can buff the witch. Arguably the most important one is Melodia. She has a skill that increases every unit's attack power for 1 turn. Not specifically the attack stat, or else this would be useless, it just means the damage dealt. When the skill is enhanced all the way, it increases ally damage by 25%. As a very nice backup, she also has a skill that refreshes a unit's turn called Passionate Approach. You know, just in case. Another good buffer is the Clergy class. It has a skill called Heroism that increases the damage of 1 unit. At max enhancement, the boost is 35%. And last but not least, Moduline. This one takes a bit of extra work because you're going to want to level her all the way up and give her high int just like you did the witch. This is because she has a skill called Magnificent Splendor, which directly boosts the stats of adjacent allies. The boost is based on a percentage of her own stats, so the higher her int is, the more int she can give to the witch. At max enhancement, the skill can give the witch 25% of Moduline's int stat. As long as you kill Baal in 1 turn on each phase, which you will, the buffs last the entire battle, so no need to reapply them. You just need to have enough SP to cast them once. All support units should have high movement equipment. Here is how the fight itself goes. Before you go in, drop your Dominant Smile unit's HP to 1 with Secret Recon, then you can take it off. Phase 1 is just Baal himself. Go right up to him with your witch. If you really want to, you can go behind him. That'll make you do more damage and guarantee that your critical rate is 100%, because you move more panels. Surround your witch with your buffing units, Moduline, Melodia, and the Clergy. Buff the witch with them. Then place your combo starter more than 3 panels away from Baal so Hawkeye can give them 100% accuracy. Then all the rest of your support units go on top of the witch in the tower. Everyone in the tower is counted as being both adjacent to Baal and adjacent to the witch. The former applies Taunt to Baal to decrease his defense, the latter supports the witch's Mermaid Cord to boost her water damage. Prominent Smile plus all the Kill with Water abilities plummets Baal's water resistance. In phase 1 it will be at minus 100. Queue up your combo starter to attack with the gun, then queue Elemental Burst with the Witch, and let it rip. The combo starter attacks 10 times, which builds up the combo as well as charges Listen to My Song. This should shred Baal. Phases 2 and 3 are exactly the same, except he has an army of enemies in front of him. Your Witch won't be able to break through them with her loadout, but that's where all the podiatric upgrades come in. By sending all your support units out with auto battle, everyone's movement skyrockets, so the Witch will have enough movement to go all the way around. Everyone else will have an even easier time thanks to magical minicraft, which is actually really important because the movement boost from podiatric upgrade on everyone wears off when allies move away. So as you move allies, your other allies' movement will actually decrease. I don't know, something about the way the adjacent allies at the start of a battle thing interacts. Again, you can get all the way behind Baal for this, and you should in the later phases to guarantee that crit. So effectively, it's all the same thing as in phase 1, except you don't need to reapply your buffs. Also note that starting at phase 3, Baal's elemental resistances are much higher than the first two phases, so you won't be able to get his water resistance all the way down and you'll be doing a lot less damage to him. So if phases 1 and 2 seemed like way overkill, this is why. Now the fourth and last phase is the problem. Baal is very tanky in this phase, and his minions are no slouches either. In this last phase, you need to wipe out everyone. This is why the Witch has on Assassin Soul, it's purely to guarantee a hit on the ninja in this phase. However, there's yet another problem child on this map. The Armor Knight, simply because she has high defense and an Evility where she always defends when attacked from the front or side, which may tank your ability to kill her in one hit. We're going to be throwing everybody in a nice neat line to blast with Elemental Burst, so you just need to make sure you throw her in a way that makes her face away from your Witch so you can hit her from the back. Baal takes up a 5-panel cross, so you can take 4 of your support units and throw 2 of the enemies on either side to make a nice 5-panel line, where the middle panel is the side of Baal. Do this perpendicular to the way Baal's facing, because otherwise you just have to throw the enemies on the other side a lot farther and you probably won't be able to do that. The Witch and everyone else can get on whichever side the Armor Knight has her back facing to and unleash your almighty Elemental Burst. Congratulations! You have defeated the accursed Rakshasa Baal himself, the hardest thing this game has to throw at you. Well, kind of. If you really wanted to, you could tackle the 20-star version of this fight for funsies, which is really the hardest challenge this game has to throw at you, and the 20-star version isn't actually that much different. His health and other stats are juiced up, starting his first phase at around 25 trillion in the main 6 stats, and 2 sextillion health. But you can still easily clear the first 2 phases with this strategy at this strength. The problem after that is that his health gets a little too high in the 3rd phase, but even more devastating is his increase in water resistance, so you can't get nearly as much damage on him. You could get another combo starter to pump up your combo multiplier more, which would be the easiest way to get your damage output up, but you're still likely going to have to get more stats for your Witch through enhancing equipment. Once you've had your fill either way, let's clean up the rest of those achievements. Many of these you'll have already done simply by playing the game and getting stronger, and or need no explanation. These are 1 achievement for clearing each of the 15 episodes in the main story, reach a total of 5,000 levels on your units, destroy 20 objects on maps, get a game over, use the juice bar 255 times, which you can just spam 1 point of something at a time to do, jump 100 and 1,000 times at the base, pay 100 million hell to pass a bill in the assembly, own 10 billion hell at once, deal 100 trillion damage. I promise this comes very naturally. You'll be doing much more than this in your sleep when you're at high levels and stats. Edit and equip a DI, achieve 50% demerit completion, there is not an achievement for 100% demerit completion, create 50 extra characters, enter the Carnage dimension, conquer the Carnage dimension, enter the Rakshasa dimension, conquer the Rakshasa dimension, and reach level 99 million. These are the most basic of the basic achievements. The others probably require at least some explanation or strategies to get. For starters, start a new playthrough. This can't be done until after postlude, but once you complete that, the time travel shop will appear near the quest shop, which is this Lucky Board NPC. Starting a new game just resets story progress. You keep all of your characters and all the extra maps you unlocked, like the Carnage, Rakshasa, and Martial maps. And all your quest shop progress and unlocks will carry over too. Perform 20 combos. This is a little misleading. It doesn't mean 20 separate combos, it means 1 combo of 20. You can give everyone long-range weapons like a gun, position them around a strong unit they can't kill, and give everyone the ability Hasty Rush, which comes from Lahorel. This makes normal attacks fire off twice. 10 units on a map using this will immediately net you a 20 combo. Claim all hospital prizes. The hospital works a little differently in this game than it did in previous ones, simply because you don't have to pay for it anymore. You automatically get healed after each return from a map, but the reward system is still in place. Basically, you get rewards based on certain thresholds of how much cumulative HP or SP you've had to heal, and the amount of units that have revived after dying in a map. You'll probably just get this naturally, since the final HP and SP thresholds are super low. The one thing you might hit a snag with is revivals, but even then, the highest is only 120, so you can easily just ally kill your weaker units or something to farm this. Get 50 one-time bonuses in your first playthrough. Each story map's bonus gauge has a one-time bonus, which is a special item at the highest bonus gauge rank of 9 that stays fixed until you get it. Once you do, it'll go away and be randomized like all the others upon revisits. I'm not kidding, you can just see which maps you instantly get the one-time bonus for by just using the Mecha Girl's full strike. For the rest, you can close the distance by using fillers, which you will be swimming with if you've traversed the item world enough. These items increase your bonus gauge rank. Super Reincarnate 10 times. Again, this one is vague. It doesn't mean in general, it means super reincarnate one character 10 times. But that's pretty simple to do. You can just give them some mana at the juice bar to let them reincarnate again immediately. Unlock all classes and ranks. You can instantly master subclasses with the juice bar experience if you're late into postgame, but to unlock the classes in the first place, you just need to clear the quests at the quest shop. Monster classes don't unlock until certain points in the main story, but you should have them all by the end of it. Pass a bill that gives you a trophy. There is literally just a bill in the Dark Assembly that gives you this trophy. That's all it does. Research 100 items with Item World Research. You can literally just keep dispatching a squad to search an item, then call them back immediately until the achievement pops. Watch 20 skits. Skits are little side events with the cast that crop up throughout the story in the base. You'll know one is available when an exclamation point is over a main character's head, and or event is on the corner of the screen. So just keep watching those and you'll get the achievement. Nullify all geopanels with a chain of 5 or more. Map 14-3 is a really easy map to do this on. It has a bunch of geo symbols in the back, with the encroach effect present, which makes geopanels extend their range a little bit on each turn. If you wait 7 turns, all the geo symbols will then be on top of colored geopanels. Then destroy only the red geo symbol, and you'll get your nullifying chain for the achievement. Obtain a legendary weapon in the item world. This literally means getting a legendary rarity weapon. If you get a rank 39 weapon, you can easily just get this by encountering an item god 2 and stealing the rank 40, since that'll always be legendary. Remember to have a strong thief for this and or inflict paralysis on the item god 2. Obtain an epic item. An epic item is just an item with rarity 100, so if you keep killing item bosses, you'll get this naturally. If you really want, you can farm an item god by Genseeing out and going back in over and over. Last, but certainly not least, get an item to max level. If you don't care about leveling up a strong item to actually use, you can literally just auto-battle a weak item. Or better yet, item research a weak item and pop this trophy automatically in the background. If you're auto-battling though, it's probably a good idea to get all the innocents that resist status ailments, since no matter how high your stats are compared to the enemies, one stray poison or something could do you in. A stack of 100 gives you full immunity. Now that is all the achievements in the game. Well, not quite. I have to make a little bit of an amendment. See, I previously thought that the Platinum achievement, the one for getting all the other achievements called Wish Granted, was bugged, and that was the big joke at the end of my original Disgaea 6 video. This is not the case. See, Disgaea 6, like some other Disgaea games, tracks the achievements in-game as well, presumably for consoles that don't have achievements, or so you can keep track and redo them in individual save files. The Steam achievement pops by detecting when you get the achievement in-game, so it is possible to have all of the other achievements on Steam and not this one. When I played, I started a New Game Plus just for the purpose of popping this achievement on Steam and then reloaded my save. Hence, I did not have this trophy in-game, and hence it was not being counted. It wasn't until I re-popped the Cycle of Rebirth achievement that Wish Granted then popped as well. My dumbass thought that I was just giving the Steam system a kick in the ass by re-achieving the achievement. Turns out, it's just that Cycle of Rebirth was the only one I didn't have in-game in that save file, and I just happened to choose that one to try re-achieving because it was the easiest and most convenient. So just make sure you have all the achievements in-game on the same save file, which you can look at in the data shop. Looks like I'm the real clown here. And finally, we have done it. That is, Disgaea 6 100% completed. It's been quite the adventure. Disgaea 6 takes a radically different approach to its systems compared to other games of the series, an approach that is wildly divisive among Disgaea fans, but through the process of making this guide, I've definitely warmed up to it a bit more, and I can at least say it feels every bit as intentionally designed as any other Disgaea game, even if that actual design itself is contentious. I hope this guide helped at least a little bit or was fun to watch in general, and if that's true, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. I will be making more videos like this on other NIS strategy RPGs, alongside my normal reviews of other NIS games, so be sure to stick around for those. I've been Mags, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.